You've walked past these brands 100 times, laughed at the price tag, and grabbed the expensive logo sitting right next to them instead. That decision is costing you real money, and on an actual trip, it could cost you a dry night, a working tent, or a foot that doesn't blister. Today we're exposing 8 cheap, dismissed outdoor brands that almost nobody respects, ranked by how badly people are sleeping on them. Tents, rain gear, coolers, drinkware, footwear, goggles. One of these is sitting in a store you already shop at, and you walk right past it. Number 8. Number 8, Coleman, the entry-level coolers. You buy this one because it's cheap, it's everywhere, and the name has been stamped on coolers since before you were born. Here's the contradiction. Buyers treat it like a toy cooler, something good for a single afternoon at the lake, not a real tool for an actual multi-day camping trip. That reputation isn't really about the insulation. It's about the lid. Budget Coleman coolers skip the rubber gasket seal that premium coolers use to lock the lid airtight against the body of the cooler. That gap doesn't matter sitting in your garage. It matters when the temperature climbs past 90, and warm air keeps sneaking in around that lid every single time you crack it open to grab a drink. You feel that gap on day 3, when the ice you packed on day 1 is already half gone, and you're not sure why. But here's what buyers get wrong in the other direction. The foam core inside these coolers is doing more work than people give it credit for. Independent ice retention testing has gotten budget Coleman models close to a full week before the ice was completely gone, in real heat, not a lab. That's not bad for a cooler that costs a fraction of the premium brands, sitting 2 aisles over with a much louder logo. For a weekend trip, the gasket gap barely registers. For a 5-day haul in real summer heat, it's the difference between cold drinks on day 4 and warm ones you're rationing. Picture the lid popped open under full sun, condensation beading on the underside the second that gap lets warm outside air sneak past the seal. That's the whole story in one image. The foam is doing its job. The lid is the only thing letting you down, and it's the only thing. And the next one isn't ignored because it's bad. It's ignored because of where it's sold. Number 7, Magellan Outdoors, specifically the hunting and fishing apparel line. You skip this one because it's the house brand at a big box sporting goods store, and house brands feel like the backup option you settle for, not the real purchase you came in to make. Here's the contradiction. Trade press that actually field tests gear for a living, the kind of outlets pro anglers and hunters read before they buy, keep rating this apparel line at or near name brand performance for a fraction of the price tag. That's not a marketing claim recycled off a product page. That's independent testers sitting in real cold, real wind, real wet conditions, coming back impressed when they expected to come back unimpressed. The construction holds up where it actually counts in the field. Insulation that keeps working after hours of sitting still in a deer stand at freezing temperatures, wind resistance that doesn't fold the second the weather turns, stitching that survives real use instead of a showroom fitting room. Field testers in genuinely cold conditions have come back reporting they had to shed layers because the insulation outperformed expectations, not because it failed to keep up. Here's the nuance, because this brand doesn't get a free pass across its entire catalog. Stick to the apparel specifically. Magellan's footwear and general camping gear lines pull far more mixed reviews, with complaints about sizing and durability that don't show up in the outerwear line, and folding all of that into the same praise would be dishonest to you as a buyer. But in cold weather and wet weather outerwear specifically, the label says house brand, and the stitching says otherwise. And the next one gets mocked for looking like a trash bag, right up until it's the only thing standing between you and being soaked through on hour 2 of a storm. Number 6, Frog Togs rain gear. You've seen this one folded up in a bin near the checkout and thought it looked flimsy, like a glorified poncho, something that crinkles loudly and tears the first time a branch catches the sleeve. Here's the contradiction. It's built from a non-woven polypropylene shell that's actually rated under ASTM F1695, The same kind of protective material standard you'd expect from gear that takes liquid penetration seriously, not a costume shop raincoat thrown together for a Halloween store. Through hikers who've spent entire seasons on trail leaning on this exact suit through months of rain have called it worth every single penny, because at $20, stacked next to premium rain shells running well past $200, the math stops being close. Here's where the contradiction cuts the other way too, because this isn't a perfect product pretending to be flawless on the label. The durability is genuinely weaker than a premium hard-shell jacket built to survive a decade of abuse. It tears more easily on brush and rock scrambles, and the sweat-free breathability language printed on the packaging oversells what the fabric actually delivers once your heart rate climbs. You will sweat in this jacket on a hard, uphill push. That's the honest trade-off nobody puts on the box. For 3 days of unpredictable weather protection on a tight budget, it earns its spot in your pack without question. For 10 years of daily abuse, it won't survive that long, and it was never engineered to. It won't survive 10 years. It will survive the storm in front of you right now. And the next one gets dismissed as a knockoff brand, when it's actually one of the most honestly spec tents you can buy for under $150. Number 5, Nature Hike. The second you hear Chinese ultralight gear brand, your brain files it under knockoff, something quietly copying a real tent company's homework with cheaper material and a lower price sticker. Here's the contradiction. The hydrostatic ratings printed on these tents, the number that tells you exactly how much water pressure the fabric can hold before it starts leaking through onto your sleeping bag, have been independently verified across multiple long-term reviews at 3,000 to 4,000 millimeters. That's a real, checkable number, confirmed by people who weren't paid to repeat it. And the weights match the claims, too. Reviewers who've owned this gear for years, who've actually put it on a kitchen scale instead of trusting the box, report the real weight landing within an ounce or two of what's printed on the packaging. That kind of consistency between marketing and reality is rare, even among premium tent brands charging triple the price for the same promise. Models like the Cloud Up and the Mongar have gone through years of owner testing, weighed, rained on, and packed down hundreds of times, and the numbers keep holding up against tents that cost 3 times as much for a name you'd recognize faster. The spec sheet isn't marketing copy here. People who weighed it themselves confirmed it independently, and the numbers held. That's a bar most trusted brands quietly fail to clear when someone actually checks. And the next one isn't a tent brand or a cooler brand at all. It sells goggles. And it just quietly started using the same lens technology as brands charging $300 more for the exact same view down the mountain. Number 4, Outdoor Master. You scroll past this one on Amazon because the name sounds generic, like something assembled overnight to fill a search result, not a real optics company with any history behind it. Here's the contradiction. Select models in this lineup use an actual licensed Zeiss sonar lens, a named verifiable optical partnership with a real established lens manufacturer, not a vague premium optics claim with nothing checkable behind it. Reviewers who've worn both side by side have directly compared the clarity and contrast to Anon and POC goggles, the brands that dominate every premium ski shop wall, and come away saying the visible difference doesn't justify the price gap between them. Picture standing at the top of a run in flat, overcast light, the kind of light that hides moguls and ice patches until you're already on top of them. That's the moment lens clarity actually matters, not the moment you're comparing logos in a shop. The lens isn't the knockoff part of this product. The price is the only thing that's discounted. For casual resort days and weekend laps, this is an easy call with almost no downside. For professional-level competition optics, where every marginal degree of clarity matters at race speed, the premium brands still hold a real edge, but that edge is thinner than the price tag on the box would have you believe. And the next one isn't even trying to look like an outdoor brand. That's exactly the part people get wrong about it. Number 3, Decathlon, specifically the Quechua and Fort Claus lines. You walk past this one because it's a sporting goods chain that also sells soccer balls, yoga mats, and bicycles. And that breadth makes it feel like a department store, not a serious technical gear company built around one thing. Here's the contradiction. Quechua and Forclaz run an in-house design and research center near Mont Blanc, staffed by hundreds of engineers, complete with prototyping labs and direct field testing in the actual alpine terrain the gear is built for. That's the kind of infrastructure most single-category outdoor brands simply cannot afford to build, no matter how loud their marketing gets, including some specialty brands you'd pay triple the price for at a dedicated outdoor shop down the street for a comparable jacket or tent. It doesn't look like a gear brand because it's also selling you a soccer ball in the next aisle over. The lab behind the product doesn't care which aisle the finished version ends up standing in. The trade-off here is real and worth saying out loud. Because the catalog covers nearly every sport imaginable, individual product depth in any single category won't always match a brand that only makes tents or only makes boots and nothing else. But the core engineering behind the hiking and camping lines is legitimate, tested in actual mountain conditions, not just a photo studio. And the next one isn't unknown at all. Everyone's grandfather owned one, which is exactly why nobody takes it seriously anymore. Number 2, Stanley, the classic vacuum-insulated line. Depending on your age, you either think of this as your grandfather's worn-out thermos sitting in a garage, or, more recently, as a viral, colorful cup trend that feels like it has nothing to do with serious gear at all. Neither Reed takes the actual engineering seriously, and that's the contradiction worth pausing on. The double-wall vacuum insulation and 18/8 stainless steel construction sitting underneath that classic green shell is a design that's barely changed in over a century, and it still wins independent comparisons against insulated bottles built decades later with far bigger modern marketing budgets behind them. According to the brand's own published figures, that vacuum seal can hold a hot drink for the better part of a day and ice for several days more, and even buyers skeptical of company numbers keep posting their own kitchen table proof. Sealed lids, still holding solid ice, 2 and 3 days after they expected it to be gone. The trendy, colorful cup that exploded online is a separate, newer product line, and it's worth setting aside entirely here, because the hype around it has nothing to do with whether the original thermos actually performs in the field. The classic design has nothing left to prove and nothing flashy left to sell you on. It just keeps quietly working, trip after trip, decade after decade. The design hasn't changed because it didn't need to change. And the last one isn't a brand you've never heard of, it's the one you're standing inside right now. Number 1, REI Co-op, the in-house private label. You walk straight past this one on the shelf because you came in for the name brand hanging on the wall behind it, and the house label feels like the backup plan you settle for, not the real purchase you intended to make. Here's the contradiction, and it's the biggest one on this entire list. REI Co-op gear, including lines like their Trailbreak sleeping bags, consistently earns strong independent reviews at prices well below the name brand equivalents sitting on the exact same shelf, often within arm's reach. With the same warmth ratings, and Phil Construction buyers are paying double for one rack over. And REI backs its own line with a return policy generous enough that the company actively honors claims on years-old gear that simply wore out or stopped performing the way it should. That's not a brand quietly hedging its bets on its own product. That's a brand standing behind its own gear harder than some of the name brands it sells right alongside it. You walked past it to pay more for the exact same trip, with the exact same gear list. That's what to avoid and what to second guess the next time the bigger logo is sitting right next to the smaller price tag at checkout. Now here's where the money is actually well spent. If you want the shortcut, here it is. Nature Hike earns a blind buy because its specifications have been independently verified down to the millimeter and the ounce, not just claimed in a product description nobody checks. REI Co-op earns it because both the value and the return policy behind it are real and tested by real customers, not just marketing language printed on a tag. And Outdoor Master's higher-end goggles earn it because the lens technology inside them is a named, checkable, real partnership, not a vague promise with nothing behind it. None of these are perfect for every single use case, and that's actually the point of this whole video. The brands that earned a recommendation here did it by publishing something checkable, a rating, a partnership, a number that survived someone actually testing it. Brand recognition was never a specification. It's a line item buried inside someone else's marketing budget, and for years, you've been the one quietly paying for it every time you checked out. Before you buy anything in any of these categories again, run it through one fast checklist. Ignore the packaging and the logo recognition first. Neither one tells you a single thing about real-world performance. Look for a named technical partnership or a specific material claim, a real lens brand, a fabric rated to an actual published standard, instead of vague words like rugged or adventure-ready that mean absolutely nothing on their own once you read them closely. For footwear, check the outsole compound and whether there's any published wet grip data, not just a photo of aggressive lugs. For tents, check the actual hydrostatic rating and the pole material, not just the capacity number printed on the box. For coolers, check whether the lid has a real gasket seal before you trust an ice retention claim. For clothing, check the seam tape and the breathability rating, because a waterproof label means nothing if you're soaked in sweat by lunch. Match the product to your actual use case, not the photo on the box. A tent tested in someone's backyard on a calm afternoon is not the same tent tested on an exposed ridge in real wind. Compare the price directly against the trusted alternative's actual specifications, not against its marketing copy or its logo placement. And if a brand's claim has been independently weighed, tested, or rated by someone other than the brand itself, that's the one signal worth trusting over everything else sitting on the shelf in front of you. Drop the brand you actually own in the comments below, how many trips or miles you put on it, and what, if anything, eventually failed on you. Tell us what you regret buying and what you'd put up directly against the picks in this video. We'll put the next round of dismissed brands through the exact same test.